Okay, so this is going to be our next video. Video number 5, I think, in the series. Okay, and this video we're going to show basically the second portion here, what's happening. Okay, so in the last video we came as far as create window function. So we ended at the create window function. So we're going to pick up from there. Okay, so the next, after the create window function happens, the next the next function that we're going to call, it's called show window. Okay, and the show window in our case here is going to take a handle to our window that we already created with the create window function that we got there from there, and then it's going to the next parameter is going to take a value to how to display the window. Okay, so it's ncmd show, which we're going to take from the winmain function. Is going to be passed to us from the winmain function right here, which is ncmd show. And what the ncmd show will when we pass that value to the show window, it's going to determine how to display the window. So what it is as follows. So when you compile right now, okay, a window is shown, okay, and because the reason window is shown is because ncmd show is it states it's normal, showing normal window. Okay, so the way we're going to look at this, we're going to go here and we have a shortcut. Okay, just double click. This is the shortcut to our main window program. What we're going to do here is that we're going to go properties and we're going to here, this says run and says normal window. We can change it to maximized. We apply it. Okay, and what happens then when we go to run it is the window is maximized. Okay, now let's close this one, and let's go back here and change it properties to, let's say, minimized. Apply it. Okay, and let's run it again. As you can see here, it's showing minimized. Okay, window. So that's where the ncmd is getting its commands from. All right, so this is how basically the system, when you call in your application, this is where you can change how you want to display your window. The show window, however, can take other parameters here. So it's going to always take the handle to our window, and when you call in the first time, you put in ncmd show. When you call in other times after that with different windows or whatever, there are other variables that you can specify, like show default, show minimized, maximized, hidden, and so forth, right? So you can change, how the other windows, so this window is showed later on. So that's the show window function that we call. So once we create a window, we call the show window function with the ncmd show parameter and the handle to tell the operating system to basically display the window that we just created on the screen. Okay. After that, we go to the next step, which is the update window. So what the update window function does is takes a handle to our window, and it basically sends a WM paint message to our window procedure. And the window procedure we declared already here. Okay, when we created our where we go right here. So when we create our window class structure, that's the we have to pass in one of the functions. We have to pass in our window procedure to we have to link it to the class structure. So we put a pointer. So we basically, this tells Windows where to find the address where to find our window procedure. Okay, I will not go over the window procedure at this point. We're going to discuss that in future videos. Okay, and this is so we go back here. So that's what it does. So if the update region, like when we compile it here, this update region here is needs repainting, then paint message will be sent to our window procedure to repaint the client area. If that doesn't need repainting, then it won't be sent there. Okay, but it's just precautionary. It's a good programming practice to include that at this stage. Okay. Now, following that, we go into a message loop. Okay, so here's our message structure. Okay, and after the message structure, which is, I'm not going to go into details at this point. I will discuss that message structure later in another video. Following that, we go into a loop. Basically, this is our main message loop. It consists of two functions. First function, it's GetMessage, which retrieves message from our message queue for our window and places the message into the message structure. That's the GetMessage function. And then we pass our message structure to a DispatchMessage, which basically calls our window procedure. So let's look at this graphically here. Here, our graphics structure. So here's this thing. So step one, we initialize our window class structure, and we basically register the window class structure, which has the main window procedure linked to it via address. Okay, so we tell in window class structure where to find our main window procedure. That's step one. So right here, so when we register that, when we call register window, we register our class. Okay, the window itself will create a window structure in its own operating system. It will keep track where the address of our window procedure is. So that's step one. Step two is going to link that. So the window procedure is going to be linked to our so the window class structure is going to be linked to our window procedure via the address that we specified. The next step, we create what's called we create our window, and we get a handle back. When we create our window, two things will happen. First thing is the create window structure will be created for us also, which will help later on by used by Windows to determine where to draw the window, the location, the size of the window, and so forth. Okay, so we discussed that in the previous video. And also another thing happens, the system is going to create a message queue for our window. So at this point, we are able to receive messages, okay, from the system or from under Windows, whatever the case may be. And those messages that we're going to receive here, they're going to be queued into our message queue. So when the messages arrive here, the next thing happens is that the next step 4, once we create a message queue window, another thing will happen. The create window function will also send a message directly to our window procedure. So there is two differences between, there is a post message. So whenever we post a message, it goes to the message queue for our window, for our program. And there is also a post message, which basically bypasses the window queue and goes directly into window procedure. That's called. Okay, so when we say we post a message, that means it goes directly to the window procedure. What happened in our case, the VM create message is being sent to the window procedure. There are also other messages are being sent if the window is overlap window, pop-up window, I believe, and dialog window, I think. So other messages are going to be following, but we are mainly for us, it's going to be concerned with the VM create window. That's the step 4, okay? And our next video, I will discuss the window, like in the next videos, I will discuss the main window procedure in more detail. So we're going to discuss, how that operates. Then step 5, we go to show window. We call the show window. Basically, we specified the H main window handle, which is a key to our window. So the Windows system knows which window we are referring to. And then specifying how we want to show this window. Okay, so the operating system will make the window visible on the screen if NSYM the show variable is set to normal window or maximized. Okay, when I showed you before. Okay, if we if you selected the minimized, it's going to be minimized. Okay. Now after that, we go to update window, which function, which again basically just takes the handle to our window and it will send a VM paint message if the client area of that window needs repainting. If the client area of the window does not need repainting, okay, so the update region of the window is null, so that doesn't need to change, then VM paint message will not be sent. So it's basically as a precautionary, it's safe to do so at this point. So if it needs repainting, it will be repainted. If it doesn't need repainting, it won't be repainted. Okay, in the client area. And then once we have that, we create our message structure, which I will discuss again in another video what the message structure is. And then we go into our main message loop, which is basically this stuff here. Okay, if you can see here, this is our main message loop. So let's see here. And so what it does is the first function is GetMessage. So what the message, what is going to happen is going to GetMessage is going to go to our message queue for our window and retrieve the message that's there. And once it retrieves the message, it's going to place that message into our message structure, which we're going to pass by reference, not by value, by reference. That means we're just passing the address. Theoretically, we are passing the address of the message structure. We're not making a copy of that message structure. We're just passing the address to the GetMessage function. It's going to copy our message from the message queue into the message structure. Then once we have that, we're going to call DispatchMessage. DispatchMessage is going to again take a message structure by reference, and it's going to call the main window procedure to execute that window message that's going to there. So we're going to then code the window message in our window main procedure to what the program is supposed to do with that message. So again, I will discuss that in future videos, like how we're going to code that, how we're going to set up with main window procedure and so forth. Now, two things need to also have to let you guys know is that the GetMessage function, it's going to lock up the system if there is no mouse, if there's any messages in the queue. If the queue is totally empty, the GetMessage does not return. Okay, it's just going to be there waiting for some message to show up in our window queue. When the message arrives, it's going to retrieve it and then it's going to proceed. The dispatch, so if no messages arrive, nothing happens. The GetMessage basically it's going to be waiting for messages. Okay, it's not going to proceed anywhere. Once it receives the message, it's going to dispatch. We're gonna call the dispatch message. So the GetMessage function will return with a value. Okay, it's going to proceed. Here it does not equal 0. Okay, that means we did not receive a VM quit message. Okay, so we received any other message, but not a quit message. And we could have possibly received an error message, which we are not testing at this point. I just want to make simple the queue as possible. The the get while loop. Okay, so this while loop is going to be expanded in the future to accommodate to correctly look at how to correctly test for those various conditions that can happen. Okay, but for the time being, we're just going to get the message from the message queue, and then we're going to call the dispatch message to our window procedure. Now, the dispatch message does not return also until the window procedure processes the message itself. So until the window procedure returns, the dispatch message will not continue. Once the window procedure processes the message, then the dispatch message returns, and this loop repeats itself. So we can go back to GetMessage. If there is a message in our message queue structure for our window, in the message queue for our window, then the GetMessage will continue. We'll call dispatch message. Will return, and we will proceed to dispatch message. If there is nothing here, if there's no messages in the message queue, then we will just wait there until there is a message. Now, if the message, the GetMessage is WM_quit, which is basically 0, then this while loop ends, and we proceed to return 0, we'll exit the while loop, and we will basically return 0, so the program will end. So let's look at the source code here together. So we have the show window, which shows the window. We have the update window, which is going to send a VM paint message if the window needs updating. If it doesn't need updating, will not be sent to the window procedure. We have the message structure here. Okay, we have the while loop. So we get message. We have the handled off window, so null means for all windows, and then filters. Here 0, we have no filters. I will discuss again get message function and dispatch message function once we discuss the get message loop in future videos. And then we return 0. And if it it will repeat itself until we get message returns 0. Once the message returns 0, okay, then it will exit the message loop and will return. Then we were gonna basically at this point we just return 0, so we're ending our program. And here's our basically our window procedure, which again I will discuss that in the future videos in detail. This is our signature, and here's our window procedure implementation. So in our case, we're not doing much with our window procedure, except it's a giant switch statement. And the only thing we're doing, we're just calling a default window procedure function. So any function that our window procedure does not process, that we're not handling ourselves, we have to forward that information to the default window procedure that has, for the program to function correctly. So if we were to, so the VM paint message, if we were to process this message here, then it would return 0 before, and it would not call this valid. The default window procedure would not be called. But because we are not calling any messages that we have, whatever VM paint, VM create that we had there, then what will happen? The default window procedure is handling those messages for us. Okay. So I just want to briefly discuss the second part of the video. So that's how the whole program works. So let me just go do a quick brief overview. So the first thing first, so window class, we're declaring a structure of window class. Okay, then we're initializing all the variables of our window class. So we have basically the instance of our application, the class name, the menu, which is, we have no default class menu for our class here for the window. We have the stock object brush, so we need to put like to which paint the background with. Okay, then we have extra memory for class and extra memory for window, which we are not using. Okay, so we put 0. Then we're specifying which icon we're gonna use. Okay, so we're using application icon default. Then we're using which cursor to use whenever the mouse moves into the client area, to what cursor to use, the style of the window, okay, and the window procedure. Okay, so here I went over those variables in the last video, so you can check that one out. Then we're registering that the class with us. So when we register that class with us, basically what we're doing, we're just creating a structure in the operating system. We're just telling the operating system to keep that information there. Then what we're doing here, next step is we're creating a window. So we're declaring a handle to our main window. Okay. And putting a null to it. So this handle is basically null. And then we're going to create window function to create our window. So it's, again, we're passing some additional information. So at this stage, the operating system will create a structure for our window. We'll create a message queue for our program, okay? Because this message queue can use, if you had other windows in it, like buttons or whatever, they also would go to this message queue. It will be dispatched through it this way here, okay? And then it sends the VM create message to our main window procedure. So it bypasses the queue, but just directly calls the window procedure, okay? After that, we're calling show window with the handle to main window and specifying how we want to show our window based on the input from the user, usually determined there. Okay, and then update window, it basically sends a VM paint message if the update region of the client area needs updating. So if the client area is not valid, it will basically validate it by repainting the client area. If not, then nothing will happen. Then we're declaring our message structure, which I will discuss in the future videos. And we are going into our message main loop. Okay, so this is a continuous loop until GetMessage basically returns 0. If the return value from GetMessage is 0, then we exit the loop and exit our program in our case. And GetMessage basically will wait for a message to appear in our message queue before it proceeds. If there's no message queue, it will just sit there. Okay, and then once the message arrives, it will retrieve that message from our message queue and place it into the message structure, at which point we're going to call the next DispatchMessage function. With again, we're going to pass the message by reference, the message structure by reference to the DispatchMessage. And at this point, the DispatchMessage is going to call our main window procedure here. Okay. With step 8, we'll call our main window procedure with that message, and then we're going to execute that window message. Okay, once the main window procedure executes that window message, it will return, and when it returns, the dispatch message will return, and we'll go back to here to get message to get another message. When the get message is going to equal to 0. Then we're going to exit from here and return and basically exit our program. Okay. So that's all I have for the time being there for you guys. All right, thanks. And in the future video, I will discuss the message loop, the return, the window procedure function, the message structure. So that will be in more detail discussed in future videos. Okay, thank you.